Wow. Okay. What's up, fellas? I'm not even gonna do the regular intro, right? If you're new here, consider subscribing. Videos twice a day. Like the video. There's socials down in the link if you want to check them out. Victor OLADIPO. So all day today, I'm streaming for 5 hours today. Trades are happening, right? We got Vucevic. Talk about that tomorrow. Magic are trading everybody in the roster. The Raptors are dumping random guys. But we're all just sitting there thinking, what's going to happen with Kyle Lowry, who didn't end up being traded, not super surprising, and Victor OLADIPO. We're all looking around thinking, when are they going to make a move? 2 o'clock, nothing. 2:30, nothing. 2:40, nothing. And I'm like, there's no way the Rockets are going to keep Victor OLADIPO. I had this whole plan in my head. As I'm streaming, I'm telling everybody, if they don't trade him, I'm going to have a super obnoxious title in all caps about how somehow they didn't trade away Victor OLADIPO. And then we get to a couple minutes past 3 o'clock. Tweet notification comes through. They're going to send Victor OLADIPO to the Miami Heat. And I'm like, finally, there's some common sense here. They're going to trade Victor OLADIPO. He's clearly not going to return to Houston. They're going to get some value. This makes total sense. And I'll just kind of show you what happens next. I was completely beside myself when I saw the return they got for Victor OLADIPO. I could not contain myself. Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a pick swap, which is still unknown as of the recording of this video what the pick swap is. There's just so many thoughts here. I'm gonna try and get them out in as organized of a way as possible. If I look over here on occasion, it's because I'm seeing if there's any more notifications coming up on my phone. But it's just so bizarre that this ended up being the trade package for OLADIPO, because we got these rumors a day and a half ago about how there were teams stepping up with potential offers, including young players and picks. And it was like, okay, maybe they're actually going to get value out of OLADIPO. That's really good for them. But I was convinced he was going to get moved. And the closer we got to the deadline, the more confused I was. I was like, wait, there's no way they're actually going to let this guy just leave for nothing as a part of a main part of the James Harden trade. And the package they ended up getting in exchange for him might as well have been Victor OLADIPO leaving for nothing. Kelly Olynyk, don't care about. Avery Bradley, don't care about. Pick swap, don't care about. And here's the most shocking part of the whole deal. In terms of players, right now on the Houston Rockets, players that are a member of the Houston Rockets as of the recording of this video, the Houston Rockets traded James Harden and PJ Tucker in exchange for DJ Wilson and DJ Augustine. That's it. Now, there's picks and there's all this, there's all these, they have every Nets pick you could possibly have from now until 2027 and a Bucks pick thrown in there as well. Great, fantastic. But in terms of actual players, that's what they got. When they could have had Ben Simmons, when they could have had Karis LeVert, when they could have had even other assets from Philadelphia, and they decided to take this Nets package. At the time, I thought it was a mistake. And then at the time, with the, as the OLADIPO thing got worse and worse and worse, it became clear they royally screwed this up. And I can't fathom how we got here. I can't fathom how the Rockets got this little in return. Granted, for a player that wasn't playing particularly well, and a player that is struggling still 2 years later return from injury, and a player that is still trying to get back to form of a former All-NBA caliber guy, was good enough at least to be like the main part of a James Harden trade, is now worth quite literally nothing. Like, I know that he was probably going to leave. I know that they weren't going to be able to re-sign him, but they still should have been able to get something out of him. And here's where I land on the fact that they got nothing. They probably waited too long. They sat around, they thought, we can get this for OLADIPO. I'm convinced that there were better trade offers for Victor OLADIPO than this earlier in the day. Fully convinced. There's no way that this was the best offer they received for Victor OLADIPO. And what ended up happening is they thought, okay, we like this offer, but we're going to wait and see. We're going to see if we can get something better. And they waited too long. And other teams started making moves. They said, you know what? We don't really want Victor OLADIPO that bad. We're going to go out and get JJ Redick. We're going to go out and get Norman Powell. We're going to go out and get whoever. And ultimately, they had this backup offer from Miami that ends up being quite literally nothing. I mean, there were reports and rumors going around about how, the Heat were kind of waiting on Houston to bring down their expectations on what they would get in exchange for Victor OLADIPO, which tells me that the Heat went to them and they said, we think Oladipo's signing here this offseason. We think that we're going to get him regardless, so we're not going to give you anything significant. You're not getting Tyler Hero. You're not even going to get Duncan Robinson, which might have been on the table at some point, but as of, a couple hours prior to the trade deadline, they probably took that off the table. They said, this is our offer. This is what we're going to go with. We think we're getting him anyway, so we're basically going to get him for free if we're going to get him today. And the Rockets are like, okay, good to know. We're going to see if we can get better deals. And then ultimately they decided that they were going to wait, and they were going to wait, and they were going to wait. And now they've ended up with a whole bunch of picks and pick swaps in exchange for a guy in James Harden that has been top 5 in the MVP voting for like 4 or 5 seasons in a row now. Like the limited value they got in return for this guy, just it's mind-boggling. And I thought about, doing different little gimmicky things, right, for this video. I thought about, let's throw on the, the glasses and the shirt, and let's do brutally honest about Victor Oladipo. I don't even need that. This is just a level of incompetence that truly just like boggles my mind. I can't fathom how a franchise can misplay not just the Harden trade, not just the handling of Oladipo and the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent that could possibly leave, the fact they don't see the value in bringing in a player, Karis LeVert, that's on a multi-year contract, that's younger, that has more value, ultimately long-term, especially considering the fact that they ended up being then not very good. But then what I'm assuming is a mishandling of the situation today. Based off all reporting, there were much better offers on the table than what they ended up accepting. They waited too long, and they just screwed the entire thing up. Not to mention the fact that initially they would have rather had like one random pick from the Cavs ended up being a Bucks pick, and then they ended up swapping in the PJ Tucker trade, rather than having like Jared Allen and or Taurean Prince. Like the trade package that Houston, if Houston was just like, you know what, we're not going to trade him to Philly. We want to take what the Nets have to offer. They could have ended up with LeVert, all the picks they ended up with, because the Nets gave this stuff up anyway. It doesn't matter to them if it goes to Houston or not. They could have had LeVert, Prince, Allen, and all these picks. And probably if they asked for it, Landry Shamet too. Like if they had asked for something else, the Nets probably been like, that's fine. We just want James Harden that bad. That's what they could have had. And now they have all the Nets picks. And that's it. That's it. I can't believe how poorly this ended up. And that's why this ends up being the first video right after the deadline. Like the Vucevic thing was completely surprising to me, and I think it's a really cool trade. The Aaron Gordon thing is interesting for Denver because they give a pick all the way out into 2025. Orlando brings in all these assets. There's a lot of things to talk about in the deadline that I think some people were a bit disappointed by, but for me personally, there's plenty of news. There's plenty of things to talk about. But the number one thing, if the Victor Oladipo quote unquote trade is not the headline for you of the trade deadline, I don't know what could be personally. It is complete mismanagement. If I'm Steven Silas, like I don't even want to be there anymore. Like, did someone else want to offer me a different job? Like I can't believe how poorly this has gone. I don't know. And again, it just goes back to the fact that they were, for some odd reason, completely unwilling to make a trade with Philly, despite trying to leverage Philly against the Nets to get a better offer. I would rather have Ben Simmons right now than anything they got for Harden. Even if they ended up with LeVert and all the picks, I probably still would have rather had Ben Simmons because I know that he's going to be good. He's under contract long-term, and you can build around that. And they probably would have gotten Simmons and at least a pick, or maybe Maxey and a pick or something like that. I don't know about this one. I just very, very rarely, I mean, this is what I do for a living. Like I talk about basketball for a living, and very rarely do I become absolutely speechless. And for at least a few minutes after this news broke, I didn't know what to think. Because again, initially, like you see the notification, because they didn't have the details at first. It was just Oladipo to the Heat. And you're like, okay, interesting. We'll see what that's about. Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a pick swap. I don't know what the pick swap's going to be. Maybe it ends up being like some kind of weird swap for this year's pick where they move up in line for the pick swap if it's outside the top 4. Again, I don't have that information right now. If you're a Houston fan, I don't know what to tell you, man. You got to really, really hope that the Nets thing falls apart in a crazy, crazy way. But it's possible that you traded James Harden for a couple of picks in the 20s and a couple of picks maybe in the teens, best case if you're lucky. If you're a Houston Rockets fan, you might want to consider a different team, because this might legit, like in a league that has a lot of really bad front offices and have had, bad front offices for a while, the Rockets are making a case for themselves to be the worst front office in the entire league. So anyway, with that said, if you guys are looking for more videos from me, you can check out the boxes on screen. You can check out more videos in the channel as a whole. I'll be coming out with all kinds of trade deadline content. This will probably be the last video of the day. I'll save the Vucevic stuff for tomorrow. There's Aaron Gordon stuff to talk about, talking about stuff with the Magic, with the Nuggets, with the Bulls, all kinds of stuff all over the place. Maybe not as many trades as we would have hoped for from today, but there's at least 3 really, really interesting ones, those being the Gordon one, the Vucevic one, and the Oladipo one, and all those we'll be talking about here over the next couple of days. But Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, you can leave a like rating. You can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. And yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.